Some of my first videos are about the work of C.G. Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, and about the Myers-Briggs Personality Types. The videos have gotten thousands of views. I'm very proud of them, although they do need to be updated. But I've been doing a lot of videos about history, and I feel like I know you need to understand where I'm coming from with these videos. You need to understand why I'm doing them and why I'm doing them the way I'm doing them. So I'm going to talk about my particular personality type. I am an INTJ. I lead with introverted intuition, and my secondary function is extroverted thinking. We are the masterminds. We are system builders. You might know us as crackpots or whack jobs. It's okay. I used to be a young Earth creationist. But let me say this, in all fairness, those old Earth evolutionists haven't answered all the questions either. The world is a lot weirder than we think, but I'm not going to get into that. Now, like everyone, we have third and fourth level functions. And like everyone, including you, so don't give me that look, our third level, our tertiary level function, is at the level of a 10-year-old. For us, that's introverted feelings. So they tend to run a little raw. They can be fairly easily bruised. They are introverted, which is important because we feel deeply. It might not show on our faces. It might actually be, we might actually look robotic, but when you say things about us that are hurtful, it really, really, really hurts. Now, because it's weak, it drives us to be authentic. You know, you want to be a special snowflake, you say? Not true. I know that's not true. INTJs, we're all special snowflakes, and yet we all operate exactly the same way. It's going to be kind of, it's kind of weird. And so that's what that third level feeling does for you. Now, our fourth level, like yours, is at the level of a 3-year-old. So it's, for us, it's extroverted sensation. So our sensations can be kind of spastic. You know, we can fall prey to physical compulsions like overeating or sex. I personally have trouble with binge eating. And now that I've thought again about my personality type, I realize what's happening. My feelings get bruised, and maybe I get scared. And then the spastic sensation starts kicking in, and then I just I got to eat. If I have a cake, I'll eat half the cake in one sitting, and then I'll come back 6 hours later and eat the rest of the cake. And if I don't eat the cake, I get real pissed off. So I know, I'm sorry if I'm hitting the mic. I keep doing that. So, you know, again, we're falling prey to the physical compulsions. Now, it's kind of hard to determine. You often have to carefully observe somebody. It's hard to figure out what their personality type is. Obviously, you can look at where they're strong, or you can look at where they're weak. For example, if a man is paranoid, then he's probably got weak intuition. Therefore, what's the opposite of intuition? Sensation. He's strong sensate. You know, you got sensation and intuition, you got thinking and you got feeling, and they're both opposites. It's engineering trade-off. You have to do one or the other. You think more than you feel, or vice versa. You intuit more than you sensate, and you have to flip back and forth between the two. You can't merge them together. So that's one way you can help find somebody's personality spots. Now, the world would be a much poorer place without us. As I'm going to show you, we're very important people. But we're also we're crackpots and whack jobs. It can be pretty lonely on date night. Therefore, I have hired a relationship coach who also turned out to be an INTJ. I actually commented on one of his videos about how we think so much alike. I should have taken the hint. Naturally, he's got a system with spreadsheets. We INTJs have to have a system, or we break down. Simple as. Now, Paul is not cheap, but I trust Paul because I know how he operates. And so that's how I know that you can trust me. Let me tell you why. Now, we INTJs, we always have to have a thing. We always have to have a grand project. And when we're talking about this thing, we cannot lie to you because we cannot afford to lie to ourselves. You know, your brain is not in different compartments with firewalls in between every compartment. If you're in the habit of lying about one thing, that's going to leak over in everything else. And you have to come up with lies to cover up other lies. And you have to make the lies plausible. And then after a while, you don't remember what's not true or not. And this could get integrated into your system. And, you know, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. So I'm not going to lie to you. Basically, people buy into their own bullshit. We can't have that. A couple of examples that are important here. I really do use the best resources that I can to make these videos. I buy equipment. I buy books especially. I buy lots of books. They cost me a lot of money. By the way, be a champ, help me out here. If you like, hit the like button. Please subscribe. If you know somebody who might be interested in this video, send them over here, have them like and subscribe. Help me out, get the views up so that I can start monetizing this thing. I know you don't want commercials, but it's really gonna help me out a lot. And that's true for any YouTube creator, by the way. You help us out a lot. Okay, I use the best resources. And once again, I just don't have the time and energy to lie to you because everything is about the system. Now, INTJ is a fairly dominant personality type. It's fairly masculine. So if you meet an INTJ who's a homosexual, like me, or a woman, you treat us as INTJs. We respond to reason. We're very good about that. We're not really big on feelings, as I talked about before. So since we're manly men, even the women and the gays, we love to hunt. Except we don't hunt for deer. We hunt for ideas. Hunting for deer, that's a sensate thing anyway, or catching a football. And when I'm in the hunt, I'm making a video. Everything goes into this video. I pour my whole heart into my videos, which is why the like and subscribe is so helpful. I'm constantly talking to myself, and people notice at work. I mean, one lady says, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I saw you and you were just, I saw you doing this with your hands and you were carrying on a really animating. I thought it was, as people kind of think we're crazy, as I said, crackpots and whack jobs. I'll explain later what's going on with that. But here's the take home. If you're wondering about whether I'm full of shit, if you're wondering about whether I'm lying to you, I'm not full of shit. I'm serious about everything. This is all important to me. And I don't have time to lie. I don't have time to lie. And no personality hates liars and manipulators more than us. That's a universally acknowledged trait of INTJs. We don't have time for your bullshit. We're busy. Paying for this was an act of faith. I'm literally putting my money where my mouth is. Trusting Paul is trusting me. Trusting Paul the way he does things and trusting me the way I do things. How can I expect you to trust me if I don't trust me? Put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to say what I mean. I'm going to mean what I say. Now, Paul's system is actually excellent. I mean, the program lasts more than a year. I mean, for God's sakes, think about what you get out of this thing. And if he actually charged more, he still would not be overcharging. Here's the power of the INTJ. It's really, really hard to be gay. Now look at my video, Good Twin, Bad Twin, Part 1. And I really hope you look at it. Look at the special note underneath because information came in the day after that dramatically strengthened the case. Also, there's an argument beneath it with a guy named JR. This is a really good argument. If you're INTJ, you know you appreciate this. It's high end. He takes it as good as he dishes it out. You know, we have a saying, you dish it out, but you can't take it. It's not JR. It's a very good argument. Here's the bottom line. Theologians and translators and transmitters of the Bible have been lying about the Bible, and they've been slandering and libeling gay people for hundreds of years. And it's put us under a lot of pressure. Now, and we're still screwed up. You know, in many ways today, we have not been liberated. It's like we've jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. You know, you have sediments get laid down over time, you know, and it forms a rock, a sedimentary rock. And maybe there's an earthquake and the rock gets put underground and it gets pressurized and heated and distorted. And then when you find the rock millions of years later, maybe it doesn't look anything. You could tell it used to be a sedimentary rock, but now it's a completely different rock. It's called a metamorphic rock. That's what's happened with the gay community. Okay. Now, my take on the Bible is it's very, very original. I'm very proud of this, and it's already starting to bear fruit. On my next video, I'm going to talk about the origin of a couple of symbols. One is the symbol for ni in the Minoan Syllabary. It is a winning athlete with his arms held up in victory, and he glitters. You'll never guess how I figured that out. So you have to watch the video. The other one is on the Hebrew letter Alif. I won't tell you what it is. I will say it came directly out of that video. But I will say this. Look at the special note. There's a word in there, a name, hint, hint, that starts with Alif. Ask yourself a question. What is the Alif? Go do an image search, probably an image search of the Minoans on Crete. You'll see the Alif. They even have a name for it. It's not called the Alif, though. So the power of the INTJ. When you put a puzzle together, okay? What it is you get a piece over here of the puzzle, and then a big piece over there of the puzzle, or maybe you have the outside of the puzzle, and then you put the pieces together, and then you build around that. Paul and I are both INTJs. We've gone off in our own separate areas, and we put together two big pieces of the puzzle, and I feel like we're putting together our big pieces. Paul hits family and home, and we can have a family and we can have a home. We can finally do that. And, the gay rights movement, I do thank them for that. I hit faith and history. We can now step confidently back into history because we have been in history before. Ancient Greece, the Renaissance Italy. I think Byzantine, I think Constantinople over in northwest Turkey during the Middle Ages. And I'm a Christian, and I want everybody to be a Christian. And I don't apologize for that. I don't apologize to fellow INTJs, most of whom seem to be without faith, from what I understand. I don't apologize to homosexuals who want to badmouth Christianity, not that it's completely unearned. And I'm not going to apologize to Christians for being a homosexual. Your theologians have been lying to you, and I proved it. And this shit needs to get fixed. We don't have to wander around like ghosts anymore, living as exiles from our own family and culture. And we don't have to listen to our so-called leaders anymore. I've always thought they were demonic. I get so pissed off when I think about Harvey Milk. The man who murdered him was willing to work with gay people. Harvey Milk was not a martyr, he was a creep. There really are gay martyrs, and I take that as a personal insult. And this is just wrong, yet undeniably glamorous. This is a mortal combination, and that's why I think Ryan Murphy is consciously demonic. If your eyes are full of darkness, then your soul is full of darkness, and the darkness will take you. Hell is not glamorous, friends. And if you get thrown in there, you are never leaving. Alternatives. New roads. But sometimes to get to that, it's time to tear down a fucking wall. And that's what we have going on here with the homosexuals, with homosexuality and Christianity. And with Christianity with homosexuality, what most homosexuals think about Christianity today. Now, there's a movie. It's super gay, but I love it. Mommy Dearest. It's about the life of Christina Crawford and her mother, Joan Crawford. One scene in there that really stuck in my mind was she's married to the CEO of PepsiCo, and they're remodeling the headquarters. And boy, she's burning through the money. Joan never really cared about money, whether it's her money or anybody else's, and she certainly didn't care about his. And he's popping antacids because she's stressing him the hell out. And they're talking about a problem that they're having with the wall. And she says, you know what? Tear down that wall. And she looks around as if she's still in a movie. She's not in a movie. And her husband pops more antacids. Tear down the fucking wall. And I understand that you can't take something down unless you have something to replace it with. I got something to replace it with. It works. It's coming along very well. There's going to be a part 2. Because we homosexuals are the foundation of an entire line of theology. It's going to be great. Now, I talked about how there are women who are INTJs. Like us, they have trouble getting a date on date night. Kind of lonely on date night. But let me tell you something, and I say this from my heart. Beloved sisters, I truly mean this. I think you are the most beautiful women in the world. An INTJ woman arrests. She stops you in your tracks. Even I drop my knitting when I see an INTJ woman. Gentlemen, I have no doubt Athena is an INTJ female, straight out of the forehead of Zeus himself, fully armed. This is Amy, MBTI, giving us an anthropological report on small talk and chit-chat as a social binder. We are truly baffled by this. Don't you have something to do? Here's one named CK, thinking she all that. No, she's trolling. You know giraffes talk to each other, like the big long-necked giraffes, but it's a super low frequency, so we can't hear them. That's the way our jokes are, so we have to be careful around non-INTJs. They might think we're serious. One of her viewers asked her why INTJ women are so hot. She's making educated guesses here, but she's probably right. As is the fate of all mankind, we age and we die. But when you look into the eyes of an INTJ woman, you see eternity. More than 99% of women in the world are not INTJ, so like any precious gem, they are very rare. And just because they have a masculine personality doesn't mean they can't glow as a woman. That's what we do when we're in love. We glow. One of my favorite photos of me ever. Someone, they're off camera, you can't see them. Someone has walked into the room and I'm in love with them. And you cannot fake that look on my face. It is literally a snapshot. Again, one of my favorite photos ever. Here's me as a baby. Mom's making me laugh. I glow, but I don't LOL. We're not the LOL types. Little baby INTJ, already surfing the interpolarity of opposites. The inner with the outer, the above with the below. Mom says I threw a fit whenever she tried to take those straws away. They themselves carry breath, spirit, pneuma, and water, the unconscious. Hang tight, wee Willie. You're in for an amazing ride. But, as I said, we've got our problems. We got big time resting bitch face, as they say. Not as much today as in the past, but people used to always ask me why I was in a bad mood. But I wasn't, I was fine. Resting bitch face. They used to drive me crazy. But in all fairness to them, I used to have my arms crossed all the time because I had a back problem. I was stretching out my back. Turns out I was doing the exact opposite of what I needed to do. I tended to be clenched in. I needed to stretch out. So if you're in trouble, go get the trouble fixed. Don't just live with it. Now, as I talked about before with the women, how rare INTJ women are, we're rare, period. We are the most rare of all the personality types, except for one, the INFJs. They're closely related to us. Our secondary function, our primary extroverted function, because remember overall we're introverted, is thinking. Theirs is feeling. Okay, we can be very dry, very prickly. We don't like chit-chat very much. Don't you know that's popular on date night? Yes. They are warm and connecting, but make no mistake, they're from the same planet X that we are. And our Phoemalian queen sends you her greetings. And like us, they feel like aliens. I was talking about someone today. It's just like, most of the time, I don't even feel like I'm the same species of people who are around me. INFJs even have their own look, just like we do. The INFJ stare. We INTJs have trouble with eye contact. It hurts. Micro expressions flicker across the face. They last fractions of a second. You see them even though you don't know you see them. We have two vision centers. We have one that is the vision center in our brain, and then we have a second that picks up quick movement. Maybe there's a tree limb coming at you, or somebody's throwing you a baseball. Okay, now there are people with brain damage, and they can't see, they're blind, but they can catch a baseball. It's that secondary system that's probably picking up these emotions. Now, we don't grok feelings very well, which is why we have to come up with a word like grok. And so when we're immersed in feelings, we can feel kind of stupid. And there's nothing worse for an INTJ than feeling stupid. You want to piss off an INTJ? Because it works for me. Accuse him of being incompetent. Again, it's usually a him. Or accuse her of being incompetent. But in all fairness, and we need to be fair, in this case to myself, people piss me off a lot. Usually by being lazy or trivial. We hate liars and we hate laziness. We hate people who are trivial. It drives us crazy. And we have a death stare. All of us do. And so I can't control it. I remember when I was talking to some kid sometime, he graduated from high school. I think they just pushed him through. And I mentioned the Soviet Union, and he says, "What's the Soviet Union?" Whoa! And then he jumps back just like that because I had unleashed a death stare. And I said, that's okay. They don't give you very good schooling, but really, he ate a shitload of sugar. It was shocking how low his attention span was. But anyway, I can't control it. And because you don't know anybody when you meet them. But with the intuition, you can sort of see around corners. And I know when I'm dealing with an asshole. And I tested this once. There was a time on a certain job, if you knew what the job was, you'd understand why this was happening, where I would snarl at people or give them nasty looks. And I didn't understand why I was doing that. And then I felt guilty. And so I would observe them when they didn't know I was looking. And every single time they were assholes. So it's probably best to look away when dealing with strangers, but nevertheless, no eye contact, no bueno on date night. Frank James is fun to watch, but Frank, you need to smile more. You look great when you smile. He also changes his hair up a lot. Looks good. But that's not typical behavior for an introverted intuitive. I thought it was more of a sensate thing. The exact opposite. I wonder what that's about. INFJs and INTJs, we are receivers and processors. Okay? Their extroverted feeling goes out and gets the feels. Our extroverted thinking goes out against the data, goes out and gets the data. And because these secondary functions, and again, we're primarily introverted, are extroverted, that means they try to shape the world. They try to make you feel at home. They try to make you feel comfortable. We tell you what to do. INFJs are good confidants. They're great for blowing off steam or for spreading the joy. Just a little rule of thumb with them, probably true for everyone else. Certainly true for everyone, but certainly true for them. Try to spread the joy more than you're blowing off steam, because if you blow out their battery, blow their fuses, they're going to start avoiding you. So I pity you if you rely too much on their friendship and you're that kind of person. We can give you emergency emotional comfort, but what we're really good at is going out and researching the hell out of your problems and then telling you what to do because we love you. And FYI, when an INTJ gives you a solution, gives you an idea, try to follow up on it, at least for a short period of time. Just humor me. I have a friend. I love them both. A couple of friends. One of them, she's always bringing me something that a certain group of people say. And she's agreed that these people are liars and that they're full of malice. And yet, she still brings me stuff they say, and she still takes their word over mine. Oh well. I have another friend who has health problems, chronic health problems. I don't know what's worse, the fact that he went for years ignoring me, or the fact that he started following my advice and it was working, and then he stopped doing the advice. Now, there's a lot to process and get, a lot of information. But there's even more overhead. So there's a lot of overhead in getting that information, but there's even more overhead in doing the actual processing. That means we have to be alone most of the time. And there's a saying, little pots have big ears. Little kids, little kiddies, they're paying very close attention to what you say and what you do. That's what we are. We never grow out of that. Now, both INFJs and INTJs were both protean. That's named after Proteus. We're both shapeshifters. I noticed that about myself, but I didn't know about them. Who they are, it's hard to nail down their personality because who they are is who they're with. They mirror people. If you're an extrovert and you have an INFJ friend, you might think he's an extrovert. No, you're the extrovert. He's just mirroring you. He's actually an introvert. So they don't actually have a choice. Now, the same thing, when I'm studying a system, I'm a Buddhist when I'm studying Buddhism. I am a Trotskyite Marxist when I'm studying Trotskyite Marxism. I'm an alt-right-winger when I'm studying the alt-right. It's the only way to fairly assess somebody's system. You have to put on their skin. And when I judge you by your standards. Now, for those of you who hate the alt-right and or maybe left-wing, I'm not judging the alt-right by your standards because in many ways you're just as screwed up as they are. Now, at the end of the day, we both are who we are. We go home, we close the door behind us, and we shapeshift back into our original form. And then we shift into our primary function, which is introverted intuition. Where did it come from? Where's it going? What does it mean? I call this the cooking phase. You know, you make beef burgundy. Well, you might not know this. If you make beef bourguignon, if you make beef burgundy, it's made with wine. It's a French stew. When you first make it, it's like watery. And then when it cooks, it flashes into a gravy. It makes a qualitative change. That's me and my putting on my Trotskyite Marxist hat. Dialectical materialism. So when I'm in my cooking phase, told you this before, I'm constantly talking to myself. What's going on here? Well, I'm teaching myself. There is no better way to learn than to teach. So I'm learning. Also, I'm throwing all the different pieces in, all the different ideas in. They're throwing all the different feelings in and rubbing them up against each other and merging them together. This is like a magical, largely unconscious process. And then coming up with ideas, coming up with answers. Now, the answers are not always right, but they are solidly founded. I'm not going to lie to you about the answer because it's important to me that it be solidly founded. Sometimes, though, it's hilariously wrong. I swore up and down in 3 videos that the Greek word syzygy came from the Minoans, but the Greek word syzygy is from the late Middle Ages, early modern period, 3,000 years after the Minoans were dead and gone. Now, one last thing when dealing with us. If you're a manipulative type and you've come across an INTJ and you think you're fooling one, you're not fooling us. You think we're pushovers, you think we're weak, we're not weak. I assure you, we mostly feel sorry for you. Also, remember, we're observers. You have particle colliders the physicists have. There's a big one, CERN, over in Europe. We were supposed to have the biggest one in the world here in Texas, but they didn't make it. Pulled the plug on it. You collide these subatomic particles together and they shatter all over the place, and you take pictures and you get an idea of what's going on in there. You're colliding with us and we're observing. Here's the thing though. When we're done with you, we're done with you. We walk away. Do not follow. We can be very nasty when cornered. And as you'd expect, introverted intuitives overall are the smartest of the personality types. As I said, it takes a lot of processing power to sort through the pile of information we bring in. The IQ goes up as you move from right to left. You go from the sensates to the intuitives to the introverted intuitives and then to the introverted rationals. By the time you get to the ENFPs, most of us are beyond above average in IQ. We're flat out gifted. We INTJs are right behind the INTPs. They're just like us, except they lead with introverted thinking. It's their intuition that's extroverted and secondary. We INTJs can be cool, but you got to give an INTJ a chance to grow on you. Here's a pointer. If you know one who's otherwise a perfectly intelligent person, but he's acting like a retard around you, it might be because he likes you. But you'll get something out of it because you're actually intrigued by us. Batman is an INTJ. That's why I wore the t-shirt. I'm just like Batman. I've even got my own Batcave. Except people here think I'm Owlman, Batman's evil counterpart from an alternate universe. There have been other versions of the crime syndicate in the years since this comic got released, but Grant Morrison's take on this team is still the best. Here he is with his fellow crime syndicate leaders, Ultraman and Superwoman. Since I'm typically the bad guy, or at least seen as a bad guy, and this is actually true, when I get in a public fight with the Joker, the police start shooting at me, so no Batmobile for me. It would just be one big target. Notice he's not looking at you. We actually have good matches. Catwoman is his, probably an ENFP. They love lots of shiny, pretty new things, and they're very warm and connecting, but they can't pay the rent. We also get along with ENTPs. I admire ENTPs. I'm a little afraid of ENFPs, but I think I'd have a lot more fun with an ENFP boyfriend. Tom Brady could be my lover, as soon as he gets rid of that evil woman who's given him a marriage and a home and children and, oh, never mind, that's not going anywhere. Someone like Tom. And there's Augustus Caesar, another INTJ. Caesar is not great because he's a victorious general in a civil war. Those are a dime a dozen. He's great because after the Civil War, he went throughout the empire and pulled together all these different religious pieces, parts, and he forged them together into one big religion. And he's had a heavy influence on the Roman Catholic Church. So it shouldn't be a surprise that it is the biggest, most enduring institution, period, in the history of the world. Behold our power. Now, as I said before, every INTJ has to have a thing. We have to have a project. And that project gives us superpowers, where we can just throw everything else aside that doesn't have anything to do with the project. CK was blowing off her beauty regime, And I'll tell you something else. Anything that gets in the way of that project goes away. In my case, bad health. Which is why I go to the gym. The guns are great, aren't they? Check out those forearms. Not too bad for an old man in his 50s. I told you I was Batman. Nobody ever listens to me. But this is what I'm really after. I've got the resting heart rate of an athlete, and I had a test to score the buildup of my heart's veins and arteries. Like you get a score for a test in high school or something. I have none. I have no buildup in my veins and arteries in my heart. Take care of your heart, take care of your brain. Simple as. I don't want to hear about your depression or your mood swings or your mental fog until you've hit the gym for several weeks. And don't forget the cardio. You see what I just did there? I told you what to do. Love you. Mean it. Paul has his clients take the Myers-Briggs test. I took it 15 years ago. I was INTJ then. I'm INTJ now. If you look up the personality type, you see me perfectly described, including the way people react to me. But I'm not nearly as obnoxious as I used to be. I've smoothed out the rough edges. For example, on the sensation. I'll pop on the headphones and I'll listen to music, usually classic, no chatter, no thinking. This is not your world. I noticed that with a lot of the classical music, you have a rhythm. They'll play around the rhythm, play around it, go below it, go above it. Same thing with the scale. They'll be above it, C flat minor or whatever. Go below it, like that. They'll just play around it. It's very complex, very subtle, very, very sensate, very sensual. I like that a lot. I'll look at beautiful paintings. You look at my videos, you see I'm thin, then I get obese. I got obese. You know, when you're, I don't want to brag or anything, but when you're muscular, you get a lot of attention. I don't really care for that much attention. And so I just give into the binge eating. I don't really care. I've got other things to do anyway. INTJ, we throw all in. You know, but I just decided I wanted to wear beautiful clothes. And I'm sorry, the fat is beautiful thing, that's bullshit. You need to take care of that. And so I dropped the weight because I can. I told you I'm a shapeshifter. I also told you I don't lie. Now on my feelings are kind of weak. And so on Facebook, I will post my feelings, post how I feel. I always pick that because believe it or not, I can be in despair or be full of rage and not even know it. I mean, when I was in therapy, my therapist, Tess, God bless her, a Jungian, she asked me one time, how do you feel? And I says, I feel like people are, and she goes, no. How do you feel? And I go, well, I feel like that things are not going, no. A feeling is I'm scared or I'm in despair or I'm happy. I'm like, oh, I mean, I just like water off a duck. I mean, I didn't understand. It's like hard-headed, you know, knock on wood kind of thing. And so she had to give me a feeling wheel. And I had that feeling wheel, you know, and that helps me work through that. And also, I learned from doing this video. I realized I need to linger on faces longer. See, that's one of the reasons why I do these videos and I teach myself so much. It really focuses you. And what did I say? One of the best ways to learn is to teach. So, you know, including teaching yourself. The INTJ world is very exciting. You live 6 months in the future. You can peer around corners. And that's one of the major reasons why we have trouble communicating, because we're 6 months in the future. I'm looking to you and like, hey, and you're not there, you're back there. And I'm not used to that. You can peer around corners. You don't take anything personally. We do come off as dogmatic. Absolutely true. But anybody who knows about us will tell you that we are the quickest to change our mind when new information comes in. We listen to new ideas. I've said several times in my videos, I will throw everything out that I've ever said if I need to do that. I don't have a problem with that. Why would you want to build on a foundation of sand when you can build on a foundation of granite? I mean, that's all part of not taking things personally. I want to be built on truth. That's why I'm a Christian. When I go over the symbol for knee in the next video, Jesus knew things. Jesus knew things. Jesus knew things. This guy, he's not a human being. This INTJ also makes me an exciting historian. I'm not always right, but who is? We're constantly rewriting history. Why can't I? I'm finding things that they're doing just flat out wrong. I'm seeing stuff that they're just missing and they're not taking into account, the experts. So why shouldn't I? We're rewriting history. We're rewriting science, talking about the old Earth evolutionists. I'm not going to go back to humans and dinosaurs live side by side, but I tell you this, dinosaurs are not supposed to have flesh, and we got tons of it left over. And it's sure as hell not supposed to have carbon-14. I mean, God, this stuff is millions, over 65 million years old. I guess a vacuum could contain the flesh for 65 plus million years, 100 million years, 120 million years. But this stuff has carbon-14. Carbon-14 doesn't care whether it's in a vacuum, because young Earth creationists are having fun with this because they're gathering this stuff up and they're sending it off to labs. They're not telling the labs where the samples came from, and they're getting carbon-14 dates. That should not be possible. Where are my aliens? I know you've given it a fancy schmancy label, the Fermi paradox. There should be aliens. Where are the aliens? That's a safe prediction. What we really have here is a spectacular failure of your model. Now we're sending off probes to a moon of Jupiter, Europa, and Euclides, or whatever, a moon of Saturn. These moons should have life on them. If there's not indigenous life there, life that emerged on those planets, there's no life anywhere in the universe but Earth. And by the way, according to relativity, the center of the universe is everywhere. It's true, look it up. So the Earth is back to being the center of the universe. The world is just very, very strange. We don't have a clue as to what's going on. Don't hold it against me that I don't have a college degree. I'm an INTJ. We're built from the ground up to pull in threads and weave them into a pattern. Or in the case of history, reweave a pattern that has been lost to time. I'm rewriting the history of early Bronze Age Europe. I'm rewriting the history of the Indo-European language. I'm coming up with some thrilling biblical theology that's perfectly biblically based on the Word of God. I draw straight from the Word of God. And history is directly applying to the Word of God. Okay? And here's where the INTJ dogmatic steps in. But as I said, I'm ready to throw everything out if I have to. But here's the thing. You need to get ideas in your head, out of your head, about what dogma is. What is dogma? Well, it means you don't think about it. No, dogma means you don't have to worry about it because the argument is settled. We've already thought about it. We've already argued over this. People probably a lot smarter than you, certainly a lot more thoroughly trained than you on this topic, have argued over this topic, sometimes for centuries, and they've come to a conclusion. But as an INTJ, I can tell you, as amazing as that process is, yeah, you could still be wrong. Easily half the time, I wish I were not an INTJ. People think you're a crackpot. I've been accused of being a fraud. You speak English, but a good 20% of the time, nobody understands a word that's coming out of your mouth. And unhappily, that is a critical 20%, is because when you're speaking as an INTJ, when you're speaking because you must speak, because you must say something to somebody. And then they wander off and they don't listen to you. And why put in all this hard work? Why put in all this care and all this wear? You know, I mean, I have no choice. And all this that I do, it means nothing? Oh, never mind. No, then I mean nothing. I'm the little drummer boy from the Christmas song. Let me play for you. Once again, if you like this video and want to surf along in future videos along with Wee Willie, like and subscribe. That helps me a lot. That helps out all the YouTube creators. And if you have a friend who might like this video, send them along. Let them like and subscribe as well. Good day, and thank you.